Good morning and happy Sunday to you. Yesterday, I took my 81-year-old aunt to run some errands, and on the way back home, I had to stop in and pick up a couple of groceries. And I asked her if she wanted to come in, and she said no, but she asked me to leave the windows down for her, which I did. So I went in there and picked up a few things and was in a little bit longer than I should, than I thought that I would be. And by the time I came out, I was loading the groceries, and I noticed this woman to the left of us. I thought she was going into the store, but she wasn't. I guess she had finished her shopping, so she was walking over. She said, "I know." She's talking to my aunt. She said, "I know that she's back, but I saw you in there, and I just want to give you some water because it's hot out here." And it was. It was almost 90 degrees, if not 90 degrees. And she said, because if a heat stroke, it doesn't take but a moment, and that is true. So I should have insisted that my aunt come in with me, but I didn't. So as I'm loading in my groceries and she's giving my aunt water because my aunt is fanning and everything like that, and I said, "Thank you for caring." I said, she said, "I hope you don't mind." I said, "No, thank you for caring." And the woman happened to be white. And she said, "We're in this thing together." And she might be, older than me, or she looked a little older than me, but who knows. So I thanked her for caring. And that reminded me of a few years back. I was on my way into, actually, let me start, I'm going to work my way backwards. So about a year or two ago, I was going into the Walmart neighborhood store, and I saw this elderly woman who was in the produce section, as was I. And, I didn't pay any attention to it. And all of a sudden, I was doing my shopping. All of a sudden, I hear, oh, a scream, and she falls. So I immediately rushed to her, and while I rushed to her, another young man rushed to her to help her, and to help her up. And she looked obviously disoriented, and we helped her and make sure that she was okay, and asked her if she wanted to sit down, and we could finish her grocery shopping for her. And she insisted she was fine, but we made sure that we watched her, that she was steady on her feet. And and it was funny because I think both of us intermittently during our shopping, we kind of peeked in on the aisles and see where she was, and that she was okay. The woman had to be a boomer. I'm a Gen Xer. The young man had to be a Z. The young man was Asian descent. I'm African American descent. The woman was Caucasian. Okay. Next story. Um, I was on my way to Walmart. Uh, it's been a while. I can't think if I'd even met my husband. Maybe I had, but at any rate, I make my way to Walmart. As I'm driving into the parking lot, I see this elderly man walking toward the entrance, and he's walking very slowly. He's walking so slowly that I had enough time to park my car, walk toward the entrance, and he still hadn't gotten in the door yet. Okay. Now, in the meantime, I'm seeing all these people pass him. Not one person asked him if he needed help. Not one. So when I got in there, I saw him. I said, "Sir, let me get you a cart," because there was no carts, and I could see that he needed one because he had a cane walking in. And so I said, "Sit down, and I'm going to find you a cart." I went all over the store looking for a cart, and even asked a Walmart employee. I was going to ask them, could they direct me to find a cart, and they told me that they were going on break, so they didn't have time. So I'm still walking through the store, and I found an employee who was able to steer me to a cart to get it to him, and he thanked me. The man happened to, I'm sure he was a boomer. You know, I'm a Gen Xer. The man happened to be white. I happen to be black. I couldn't even, after that, I couldn't even shop. I went to my car and just cried. Yeah, I had met my husband because I think I called him. I had met my husband, and I just cried because I couldn't imagine people just walking by him, all ages, all colors, all generations. Not one person asked him if he needed help. And I cried, and I called my husband. I said, I just did what I would have hoped someone would have done for my grandfather. Gosh, it's so many instances. And again, another time I'm taking my aunt to run her errands. I'm seeing this elderly man get out of his then get out of his car. I can't remember if he's getting out of his car or what, something, but he needed help. He needed help. And in the meantime, I'm seeing these young, able-bodied people who happily work for Kroger. So it was me who was sitting in the car waiting for my aunt to come in to ask him. I said, how can I help you, sir? Lastly, this is well over 10 years because I know I was living in a whole part of the DFW by that time. I remember driving and and I see this dog in the middle of the street. In the middle of the street, and I stopped to pick it up, and it wasn't running away from me. And I stopped to pick it up, and I saw the tag on it. So I called the vet, and I called the numbers that was on there, okay? And I left messages but got no answer. And in the meantime, I had my schnauzer at that time, and I had to keep Bradley away from this dog, you know. And so that night it stormed cats and dogs. Cats and dogs. And the next morning I got a phone call from the person. I guess they heard the message, and they said that they had been crying all night because they were dog sitting for a friend whose dog was blind and deaf. Okay? And the dog apparently got out. They didn't notice it, and by the time they noticed, they couldn't find her anywhere. And they thanked me. And the woman came to pick the dog up, and she said that she was, so fearful of having to tell her friend that they had lost their dog. The woman happened to be white and black. They offered to pay me. I said no. I said no. As a child, we had to learn Bible verses. And one of the first verses that we learned is God is love. God is love. And in all those instances I just shared with you, not one time did I consider if the person was liberal, conservative, Republican, Democrat, what color they were. God is love. And I'm thankful of that because, again, I've been pretty upset in some instances. And I realize that there's some things I just I can't affect. I can't. But am I showing love? So, we all have to reset. We all have to reset. And in those instances, nobody cared what political affiliation you were, what color you were, what generation you were. Did you show love when you had the opportunity to? Did you show that you even cared about someone else's need? Those are my thoughts. What are yours? Take that with you.